matchup. Jin Air GreenWings, KONGDOO Monsters. BBQ Olivers, KSV. Beginning of the end. 2018 League of Legends Champions Korea Spring Split.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK Spring 2018. Can you believe it? We're already up to week 7. Only a couple more weeks after this one, Papa Smithy, and already everything's shaping out pretty excitingly. We may not necessarily have the most incredible games today, guys. I'm not going to, allude to anything else other than that, but we do have a new patch, and it is the first time that we're going to be revealing it here on the LCK for an OGN broadcast. So we're excited to go through it once again.
And this, of course, is Atlas, in case you were wondering. I know that the fans, unfortunately, have problems distinguishing between Atlas, Achilles, and Valdez.
You do have a lot of partners, Papa Smith.
And they do all have names that end in S. So I understand the frustration and also the questioning. I would hope they could tell the Australian from the Americans. They can't, so this is the world we live in. Joined by Atlas today, and we may not have the most incredible matches, but we do have, the most incredible patch today.
Yeah,
that is the fun thing, like you say, patch 8.4. We got a sampling yesterday. Too short a sampling, a lot of people will say.
Yeah.
We saw some of the things. The new picks, not yet. The strategies around the banner, kind of half-baked. Maybe we can see them all put together. And today we have 4 teams right down the bottom. I mean, KSV are 5th, but have been struggling. Theoretically, one of these 4 or 2 of these 4 will show an adaptation to the patch, an adaptation to the meta that actually allows them to shoot up, because it's the business end of the season, Atlas. These teams are going to have to try and vie for those top 5. None of them are eliminated. Even KONGDOO Monster, I guess, could get up there. So it's all about how much movement you can make in the last couple of best of 3s.
Yeah, still 6 matches for a lot of these teams here today, yet to play as well. So still opportunities to really change things up. But let's go over these patch notes. And poor Kalista really did not have a great time when it came to 8.4. Bit of mana down on that Rend, and the range nerf really does make her not feel like the dominant force of the bottom lane that we've come to expect, despite seeing her yesterday in the hands of Songyun.
I mean, Songyun did say she was bad and then played her, so while I think she's definitely deprioritized in a meta where we have a lot of AD carry bans, she'll see some play. We saw a mid lane gangplank. I think you can still play him top in some scenarios, but it is a pretty severe mana cost nerf in the early game.
Zoe.
And we was in the rehearsal, we didn't have these notes translated to English yet, and I was about to say, just leave the Zoe notes in Korean. Like, we know that she's basically being removed. Patch 8.5 notes went out today, and they are talking about some compensation buffs. This is definitely the Evelyn treatment for Zoe. Just push her all the way down and then bring her back to competitive viability.
Yeah, it's smack her with a really big bat and then rehabilitate her slowly afterwards seems to be the idea for the Zoe. So unfortunately, not going to see any more of those exciting plays, but the Paddle Star's not going to be there doing bajillions of damage, triggering everyone from their experiences in solo queue. So that is definitely good news. And alongside her, there are going to be all of these new AP items.
What catches your eye? Because you've also been playing around with the items, talked a bit about them yesterday. What do you want to talk about when it comes to the AP stuff?
Well, I mean, of course, the Spooky Ghost making a return is my all-time favorite.
Sorry, not relevant. Next choice.
Damn it. Luden's Echo having 20% CDR is insane.
What is your champion? What is your kind of...
Ari. Ari's just
good.
dumb with that item.
I think
just
Ari's
so
strong.
silly.
Ian didn't play it yesterday. We're very sad about that, but...
And another Ian champion as well. Syndra definitely going to be buffed by that item having a little bit of extra power.
Froggen playing a whole lot of Lux as well. An outside chance we'll see Lux push her way in. The removal here is probably the bigger meta thing. Tracker's Knife being gone will shape the jungle meta. More Olaf is expected. We move to the runes, and Bone Plating is probably the most relevant one. Press the attack is actually pretty heavily nerfed, all things considered, on patch 8.4. 8.5, it'll be stronger, but the Bone Plating, I don't think we've seen the Bone Plating meta, that's hard to say, Bone Plating meta actually take full effect, because I think this could be a mid lane, an AD carry. I think the Resolve tree is the one we have to keep our eyes out for, because if you see Resolve tree, 100% of the time, it's bone plating.
Well, I've been taking bone plating second wind on literally everyone as secondary, and I've only been playing mid lane. So I completely agree with you, Papa Smithy. Perfect timing now being 10 minutes as well does mean that these stopwatches are very, very pesky and are going to be not as difficult to deal with in the early stages of the game.
Celestial Body's gone. That was a pretty big rune on melee supports in the bot lane, the extra 100 health, so that's no longer there. And this, of course, is what shapes the meta on patch 8.4. Largely the Baron changes, specifically around the interaction with the cannon minion, the Baron, and the Banner of Command. All things together creates these VIP minions that, honestly, if you can just protect the VIP, they will do the hard work for you. So that's why we're going to go to all sorts of lengths to really highlight how strong those Baron minions are. But this was a change that we called for. It was myself personally saying the Baron is not contested, the Elder Dragon is not contested. Make the strong defensive teams with the Sivir and Azir fight on more neutral ground than the ground that favors them in their own base. And so far, based on only 4 games, it's working. So more fights, less drawn out games. A Jin Air nerf? It does seem so.
Yeah, Jin Air nerf and a KSV nerf, 2 teams that we are going to be seeing today. So have they adapted to this new patch is the question. We saw a lot of Baron of Command action yesterday, but the thing that I actually found most interesting is that the teams that were winning were going for more mid-game based compositions. So the way they were winning the game wasn't necessarily around the Banner of Command. It was more around, let's just avoid having that second Baron fight and be strong earlier in the game.
We did see Rox mess up pretty heavily.
That is true.
Early game comp against scaling, so there's still some window for scaling, but we'll have plenty of time in some of our games, expected to be slower than yesterday. Talk about the patch. Let's talk about the KDAs. There's predictably Khan right up the top. According to the note, these are not including yesterday's games. We're not 100% clear on that, but regardless, Khan is number 1.
Yeah, and that does mean that this man on your screen right now, Peanut, he's not on a 9.5. He's on something like a 15 after yesterday, where his KDA would have gone through the roof. That Olaf performance was one of the most dominating jungle shellackings I have ever seen.
It's not quite how sample size and statistics work, but it
you know
feels
me
like
and
a 15.
sample size, Papa Smithy. I'm not exactly.
You do like talking about the sample size of one.
Yeah. The bigger the sample size, the more I just don't really care about it. As BDD once again holding the fort towards the top of these rankings. Kingzone are a pretty good team, Papa Smithy, as it turns out.
Yeah, speaking of big, it's a big lead between BDD and Kuro, 2.6 KDA. I would say the top 3 are the 3 best mid laners we've had in the LCK this season, as Kuro has certainly grown his own reputation with some great play. AD carry bang, even after some harsh games, been able to keep a good KDA. We expect that to have gone down after the struggles yesterday, but unclear exactly where these stats draw the line.
Yeah, and having played in every game that SKT have been in, and not necessarily having a lot of those as victories, bang has been very, very impressive. Marta towards the top of the KDA rankings here for support, as Gorilla often seems to be the punching bag of Kingzone and doesn't get those KDA stats working out for him all that well.
Yes.
Not exactly your fantasy choice from that team.
A very small violin for being the punching bag on the best team in Korea for Gorilla. Marta and Gorilla are 2 legendary supports. Wolf also. And the MVP is a close race as well, Atlas. Right now we have an AD carry, a support, and a jungler tied for first. Guys, in the LCK era, we have never had an AD carry, a support, or a jungler win the award. It has been mid lane and top lane, specifically top lane dominated. So I, for one, welcome one of the 3 picking up the overall victory. As we mentioned, we do not have the superstar teams. The telecom war is tomorrow. FLICKR and Rox play tomorrow. But today, maybe we'll get to learn more about the patch, and also which of Jin Air and KONGDOO can start their ascent, because when you're at the bottom, the only way is up.
Exactly, and where is the adaptation going to come from? I feel like KONGDOO probably going to benefit more from this one in comparison to Jin Air GreenWings, especially considering that when they were successful at the sort of beginning of the season, where they looked like they were playing around objectives really, really well in the mid-game, that is a time that this patch seems to favor as well. So these Galio comps, things like that, are where KONGDOO have been successful in the past, but it will be difficult because, man, they are on one hell of a losing streak. We're going to start on the side of Jin Air GreenWings, though, and which mid laner have we got? It's going to be Grace. So no Justice this time. We saw in their last series actually played quite well against SKT. Jin Air GreenWings just seem to be able to give us good series this season.
And when it comes to Jin Air, I do think that this game might be misleading for them. I take your point that against the better teams, their only winning strategy has been protect the Teddy, 6-item Teddy, or they lose. But against poorer teams, if UmTi can get a big jungle lead against Wraith, he is an aggressive-minded early game player. I'm sure that they can execute the meta comps against KONGDOO Monster. It's just, can they parlay that into future opponents? It feels like the 4 times they've won this season, we've asked that question aloud, and the answer's been no. So we'll wait and see how they look here today. My impression is it's going to be early game from Jin Air GreenWings.
Well, we'll see whether KONGDOO can answer that one back as we bring them up onto your screen. Of course, the roster hasn't been changing too much, potentially, unfortunately, because Raze is going to be back into the jungle. No Yujun this time around. Otherwise, everybody else, despite having their moments, haven't necessarily been looking great. Edge there in the mid lane doesn't now have his Zoe to go back to. Certainly was something that looked good for KONGDOO earlier in the season. But you really have to dig deep to find the positive things to talk about when it comes to KONGDOO Monster, and they're going to do their very best to try and come back from what has been a real struggle on 8.2 and 8.3.
It's definitely rough that Edge, one of our best Zoes, loses Zoe, and that's just an indirect nerf to KONGDOO Monster, who have not had many champions they've been able to tell that about. You look at the history, they have played 8 best-of-3s since their win over KSV. They have won a single game. They are unfortunately as hapless as they have been in their last 2 stints in the LCK. And then when it comes to Jin Air, sometimes the glad plane, sometimes the sad plane, but you can tell that 2/3 of the time it's been the sad plane. They haven't been able to take some tight performances and generalize that to consistent results. A win over a FLICKR, now feeling like a long time ago after a 2-0 loss to BBQ.
Yeah, and their only victory is against a FLICKR, and then you have to look all the way back to the first time KONGDOO and Jin Air met for their last victory. And have a look at the very small house that KONGDOO Monster are living in as far as KDA rankings are concerned. Nowhere near those KDA charts that we were looking at before, but Jin Air GreenWings also falling behind. Teddy had a brilliant KDA at the beginning of the season, and it has since evaporated to well inside the Pentagon.
He's not a KDA player, so in losses he will actually take KDA drops. But in wins we know that he is the one who piles on the KDA. So Teddy hasn't been able to copy other players. You think of Kramer and CJ where he would have a 7 KDA on a team that is 1 or 2 match wins in a season. Teddy's been trying to get his team over the line, and in the head-to-head they have been able to go over the line. Even as recently as summer promotion, these guys played what was not an elimination match, but a match that did qualify Jin Air for the 2018 spring season in the first round robin. Comfortable victory for Jin Air as well, so you imagine the fans will be jumping on the glad plane for today.
Well, hopefully Jin Air isn't going to be able to disappoint us. As that 3-1 was also pretty special for Jin Air, given the fact that that was the beginning of their turnaround. If you look back at the summer season of 2017. We're going to compare these AD carries. Yeah, Teddy certainly out in front when it comes to that one. It looks like they're waving at each other, which is kind of adorable.
Yeah, these head-to-heads have provoked some fun stuff. Remember UmTi and his cutting the throat to his opponent the other time out.
I feel like this is an opportunity to do that once again. If there's any opponent that you can look at and be confident, it's the only team under you on the standings.
And last time these 2 teams played, the AD carry matchup stayed the same. 2 games of Kalista coming through from Teddy, 2 victories. We'll see if Kalista will even be considered today after the nurse. So speaking of considerations, the fans, they're liking Jin Air.
Yep, they are certainly riding on that glad plane that you were talking about. KONGDOO Monster, a lot of people falling off.
I think it might be some open seats on the plane in general. There's only
2,000
some open
seats
votes
in
or
here
less.
as well, Papa Smithy. It's not exactly a full arena.
This was not the hottest of tickets this week. It turns out there's some game tomorrow. SKT versus somebody. I don't remember who.
Something. I had that game sniped away from me as well, Papa Smithy. I'm still pretty salty.
But if you missed out on that one, come join us here. Come down to Sangam and watch a game.
No, Brendan Valdez and I are going to sit down and watch the Telecom War together. It's going to be adorable. But let's get straight into Champion Select. As Varus, a ban that we were expecting, is going to come in now. Sol, of course, formerly loved the Varus and loved the Kalista as well. So now not with very many options as far as his top tier picks.
You think about 8.3 picks and bans, and we saw a lot of AD carry bans, and consider now that in some ways Kalista is no longer a first round champion. She feels more situational than she was before, so the AD carry pool might be very, very narrow when it comes to top tier picks, and Varus certainly does represent one of those.
Yeah.
When you're looking at KONGDOO Monster, Raze can sometimes be a target. Teams have more often been leaving open the Jarvan and taking away the Zac, and the Zac is banned here by Jin Air.
The Ryze as well is going to be leaving. Of course, Seraph's Embrace is pretty busted on this patch. Feels real good to build that item. As SoHwan, jungle pool certainly getting pinched.
Feels like Skarner and Kha'Zix are the first pick targets here for Jin Air. And the Zyra Khan is going to be denied as well, which has been a recent good pick for Jin Air. So we'll see if they go for the strongest available AD carry or the strongest available jungler. That was my first thought as to the way they'd want to draft. Mid lane pool is down 2. It's a bit of a reach for the Azir. I would have thought Taliyah would be seen as a level above with how good Jin Air has been at executing comps that include Taliyah and the Skarner. They were really good at that duo and taking the turrets, but very early Azir. Maybe a denial from Edge, who, compared to other champions, is 2-1 on the Azir.
Yeah, and I actually really like this from KONGDOO. Locking away the Jarvan definitely raises far and away most played, and the Sion, bit of a flex pick, despite the fact that we're probably looking to Edge to pick up the Taliyah in the last round.
I feel like we'll know in the first round. If there's not another mid laner taken, I'm going to guess it's mid lane Sion. I was able to jump onto some solo queue accounts, and you look at the timestamps,
yeah.
and the moment that the first series ended yesterday, every mid laner had a mid lane Sion game played, so it's been in scrims, it's in the solo queue as well. Speaking of solo queue, a lot of people like
flavor of the month, yeah.
What does UmTi like to do? He likes to invade, and Olaf is one of the strongest skirmishing junglers in a 1v1. It makes a lot of sense for UmTi. He'll take it very early here, rush in and try to contest every buff that Raze starts up.
Yeah, probably will have a decent time against the Jarvan at the same time. Teddy has looked great on the Caitlyn in specific matchups and specific games. See how he does as, yeah, the Sion suspiciously flexing into a couple of different roles right now as the Ezreal is locked away for Sol. Doesn't want that AD carry pool to be any further pinched.
So we're going to leave open our options. So will KONGDOO, but very likely chance this could be a mid lane Sion, depending how the rest of the draft goes. From the side of Jin Air, first professional game for UmTi on the Olaf. Definitely fits his profile. He's been playing it in solo queue, so imagine this is one that he's going to relish. Olaf is deceptively squishy at times, so we'll see how UmTi can navigate that, especially if you ult. You lose the resists and you are very, very squishy when you're trying to get out. You cannot stay in the fight.
Well, Braum is going to be taken away. KONGDOO spreading things around top lane and support as they know exactly where Jin Air are going to be putting their champions.
I feel like situations like this are going to make Sion a blue side ban, because dealing with the first round Sion on red side is actually really frustrating. He does so well against so many laners in top lane especially that you look at Jin Air and you're like, what about the Camille? Let's go. But Camille into Sion is not the happiest of matchups for the majority of the game. So the headaches that Sion is raising are frustrating, as you imagine KONGDOO would take support and continue to flex the Sion at this pick.
Yep.
So just take the Tahm Kench.
Yeah, Tahm Kench also the last sort of top tier support in the melee position available here for KONGDOO to take away, despite the fact that we have had some Relic Shield Targon nerfs still going to be favoring the melee supports in general here in the LCK.
And Teddy has been hovering, an old favorite of Wraith, one of our best Nami players. And it's probably going to go back, like you say, to the standard melee supports.
I'm looking forward to when we do adapt and actually find some of these casters towards the bottom side of the map as well, but not going to be this game as Jin Air look to finalize. Top lane being considered now by SoHwan.
I mean, SoHwan's definitely tilted because he's like, I don't know what's going on here. I guess I have to take something that is at least competitive against the Sion.
Yeah.
To represent the Cho'Gath. Now, Roach is not one of our big carry players, so maybe that will limit some of the options here and he'll just go for Sion against the Cho'Gath.
Seems like Jin Air are prepared, though, for a situation where that Sion is going to be flexed. I do like how they've drafted in a more safe manner, making sure that they can deal with whatever KONGDOO are going to throw at them.
SoHwan is an Alawi player, so I'm sure he's frustrated that he can't go for something strong. And this red side Sion is already showing its power because SoHwan has had to be more measured than he would like to be. waiting here, and it is going to be the mid lane Sion. It's going to be a top lane Camille coming through. The Cho'Gath matchup is one where she can be tricky, but also can be silenced and eaten when a gank comes through. Olaf is the sort of champion she can skip away from very easily with the hook shot. If the hook shot is down, there is a lot of kill potential there. So no surprise we are seeing more mid lane Sion, but at least Azir will be able to get a lot of trade damage in early. However, bone plating and second wind will make short work of any damage in the early game, such as the mid lane Sion.
Yep, it's going to make this Azir lane relatively boring, but you could imagine that Gray's pretty happy just to farm things up in the early stages and make sure that he can get to those item timings that we talk about so often when it comes to Azir.
The issue is that because Sion is such a blocker champion, what will that mean for UmTi, who wants to be invading? Sion has so much wave clear and poke. He also can rotate very fast with his ultimate if it is the right terrain for that. He also has long-range engage CC with the Q. So invading around a Sion is going to have a higher element of risk than any other matchup you would think, because he's so competitive in the mid lane against the Azir. So I'm very interested to see if UmTi adjusts his playstyle, or if the collapse from KONGDOO Monster can target this very one-track aggressive jungler in UmTi.
Yeah, and UmTi may not necessarily have as much of the assistance from the rest of his laners. So yeah, you're right. Could be scary. Teddy on the bottom side, the Ezreal versus Caitlyn that we've been seeing for many, many years. Pretty understandable, but guys, have Jin Air GreenWings actually got enough early power to withstand 8.4? We're about to find out right now as we get into Game 1, Jin Air GreenWings versus KONGDOO Monster. Oh, those three KONGDOO fans really trying to give it their all.
Hey, well, it's a little bit more than 3 fans.
You weren't ready to really defend that one, were you?
Hey, we are not about being facetious here. We try to give you the honest, straight information. And the straight information is that when it's 9th versus 10th, too early for most people to get to Sungam, we have to go very, very
my
close
textbook, get it in my face.
with the lens.
Yep.
There are some empty chairs here, OGN Legion, but thank you for pulling up a chair and joining us for some patch 8.4 League of Legends, the debut of that patch.
And another Sion mid-game, you know? Like this is exciting to look at. And I have a question to start things off, Papa Smithy. Have Jin Air and KONGDOO adapted enough to 8.4? I'm looking over the KONGDOO side and I'm feeling yes. Jin Air side, I'm feeling worried.
It's an interesting question. It's a quandary that we won't be able to visit till later. You look at some picks and you might think, oh, Cho'Gath, we've seen that before, but one of the best champions to eat a Banner of Command minion and remove that.
Very true.
So that is something that will work. Sion will 100% build probably a second item banner into, even when Kuro played the mid lane Sion for the Ku Tigers in 2015, it was a Banner of Command, as Ray's going for one of his early season level 2 ganks.
Yeah, and this was very successful last time we saw it. He's actually going to move himself over, go for even more deep. He's going to get in there. Edge does get the slowdown, but we're just going to check out top lane for some reason.
Level 1 still, Grace.
Yeah, doesn't actually use the flash. Raze probably could have got Grace to jump up into the air, but didn't want to trade flashes.
Grace is like, really?
Feeling really excited about that gank attempt as he just does a bit of a ring around the rosy.
Now he has to deal with a full charge Q and a Comet.
Yeah, it's just comets flying everywhere. The artillery mid lane here to start this one off.
And he thinks he's doing damage, but we all know that with that resolve tree, it's second wind, and also the bone plating, so no damage allowed.
Edge just doesn't care at all about taking damage whatsoever. Gone through a lot of charges on his corrupting potion, just uses his final one there. Actually, I was half expecting a flash Q and then go for the all-in, but decides not to do that.
Mid lane Sion still a melee champion, doesn't want to use his flash too liberally. UmTi jumping on the Olaf for the first time. Again, very much fits his playstyle when it comes to his usual approach of wanting to go for the counter jungling. While we watch the top lane, want to mention that it is press the attack coming through from Roach.
Ah, so there's a bit of adaptation.
And that's something new. I feel like press the attack's actually quite weak on patch 8.4 until late. There was kind of an overrating of the extra 10 damage on the all-ins, and it's largely undertuned because of their worries for the duo lane. So in the solo lane, it obviously is a little bit weaker as well, as UmTi going for a very early Ocean. Now he can take advantage of his passive, and the W is pretty big lifesteal. I'm not even 100% clear he can clear this.
No, he's just making sure that he stays as low as possible, utilizing that extra attack speed. Finally does get the smite off, and he nails it. Bad at all. I believed in you the whole time, UmTi. Don't you worry.
3-minute 50 Ocean is like the best thing ever.
And
just
that
feels like
dragon
you had...
hits like a truck as well.
It does, but UmTi, of course, gets the extra attack speed and has the 40% lifesteal at level 1 W. And what it means for the lanes, though, this early, it feels like you have secret runes the enemy team doesn't have access to. As Roach falls low, he's still baiting. We know that Jarvan's topside.
Yeah. See whether SoHwan is going to bite off more than he can chew. Takes a bit of a sweep there, but isn't going to be too worried and not going overly aggressive, which is good news here for Jin Air, as the flash immediately used and hookshot not going to be invested.
Yeah, it's a great flash because we all know that after the EQ comes the hookshot and the flash will no longer be relevant, so need to flash much earlier than would have preferred. Ocean Drake and the natural Cho'Gath sustain. It's going to make the Cho'Gath even more immovable compared to his opponent Camille, so happy news for SoHwan.
Happy news for Raze as well. Does have that challenging smite already picked up, and Jarvan feels pretty good about having more skirmishing power, especially in the hands of Raze.
One thing we mentioned on broadcast yesterday about the Predator junglers that we're seeing a rise of, Skarner and Olaf, is that the rush for Tracker's Knife is no longer there. You do have the flexibility of not picking up Tracker's Knife first back, because your other jungle enchants don't affect the vision as mid lane.
Yeah, pretty exciting lane gank here from UmTi, as he does land himself an axe onto Raze, taking a lot of damage. Another couple would have done it, as he was trying to predict some sort of flash out from the Jarvan. Not sure where that axe was really going, but Grace takes too much damage and will have to go back home.
Not often you have 3 blinking health bars and no flashes used in the mid lane, but that was just all about some early brawling, but no confirmation damage. After UmTi dropped the axe and wasn't able to pick it up instantly, then KONGDOO understood there was no kill pressure. But just to finish the point, because you don't have to rush Tracker's Knife, you can get the Predator early, as he has now. He's looking for a kill.
Yeah, finds the flash this time, throws down Ragnarok, but the train is on the tracks, and Edge gets himself out.
And that was a bit of a first time in competitive Olaf mistake, because he shorted the axe. If the axe had been thrown in the path of the escape, he would have been able to pick it up, and the kill would have been registered. So misses out there, does blow a very long cooldown ultimate from Edge.
And a flash at the same time, so still successful, Didn't have to invest his own either, as Raze is getting soloed by Wraith! Okay! That's one hell of a first blood, Papa Smithy.
In this game, of course, that had to happen.
Yeah.
Raze got really greedy for the back and just straight up died. There was apparently no ping from the bot lane that Wraith had gone for a ward onto the Gromp, a very standard ward, and he got the assassination with the E.
It's still funny, even now. Okay, Raze is going to come back, definitely embarrassed. So Grace does have the shifting sands if anything does go the wrong way. But he's getting bullied by this Sion. And
I think Raze understood that going back bot side after dying and a ward being put down was bad news.
He just doesn't want to get looked at by the Taric because he'll just feel embarrassed.
So someone asked me on Twitter recently to redefine the term battle ward. I wasn't expecting to have to talk about a Taric when it comes to what a battle ward is, but...
Perfect example, I like it.
When it comes to the Olaf, we say he's a battle ward. And we said the same thing about Peanut as a player, historically, a term coined by Monty and Doa, and about the Olaf. And what battle ward means is even more relevant now on patch 8.4 onwards. We're going to talk about it more, in that we know that wards are to get vision. A battle ward is when your jungler, usually, in this case it was a Taric, goes into the enemy jungle through wards or just from sight, sees where the enemy jungler is, and is providing you vision of the enemy jungler just by pure virtue of being in his face, threatening an all-in, having a skirmish advantage around him. So it's the ability to get in there and win skirmishes against the enemy jungler that makes all your lanes have the same information as that jungler clearing a camp in a trinket ward. They know where they are on the map, they know where they can and can't be, and it allows your lanes to be offensive or defensive, respectively.
Yeah, it's like having a ward that can do battle. I think it's a really cool way of talking about it.
But it's a term that's very uniquely LCK, so we have a lot of new viewers. Always good to redefine some of these.
Certainly.
sometimes obtuse terms once in a while. That is what UmTi wants to do. That is what Olaf you will see do in every game that Olaf isn't far behind. Get in the enemy jungle, walk up to a Camille jungle, in this case a Jarvan jungle, and feel very good about an all-in. And only the mid lane reacting first is a way to answer Olaf's early skirmish power.
Yeah, and the real issue here is, oh, actually, Edge getting a bit of damage with the decimating smash, but the issue on the top side of the map is Raze. He's not doing the battle warding thing. He's doing the gank attempt thing, and it's straight up not working. And SoHwan is in complete control of this lane.
Well, he has no control of his own jungle, Atlas. I think he's scared that right now there's no camps, but even if the camps are up top side,
He's scared of a Taric?
he's scared of an Olaf in this particular case. But the Taric, if he's bot side and goes missing, is going to haunt his dreams a little bit.
Yeah.
He has his flash up, so he can flash over a wall, but Raze doesn't have a lot of good options in the jungle.
This is a pick that he was so incredibly dominant on in a few games on his debut. And since really had some trouble. Peacemaker not going to find the second minion there, but Teddy still farming out in a very Teddy-esque way. Is
looking for some battle warding.
As you were talking about. Raze should be able to get the vision down here as UmTi doesn't have enough attack speed to get rid of that ward just yet.
You pronounce UmTi a lot like the last part of Humpty, and I started thinking of options for future memes.
Humpty Dumpty?
Is that when he does well or poorly?
Would you say Humpty Dumpty?
No, I wouldn't.
No.
But I have no idea whether that's a good or a bad thing for UmTi. This is a good thing. He found Raze.
Yeah,
he needs to work on the axe length, though.
Yeah, I know. He needs to work on them biceps, man. He's not just doesn't have it.
he apparently has had too many leg days in a row.
Yeah, too many leg, because he's booking it around the jungle. He's not quite able to throw that axe far enough. And when you haven't played enough Olaf, that would make some sense. In goes Raze, actually looking for a successful gank here, but they've got the ultimate. Jin Air, absolutely fine. Secret is just hungry for some Jarvan. In the meantime, though, Jin Air, Infernal Drake just for free, as that's 2 dragons so incredibly quickly. We're going to be raking in the dragons as this game goes on.
I don't think this will be a new meta thing. We talked a bit yesterday about how it was early in the patch cycle. We'll see things that teams are doing because the enemy team hasn't played on 8.4, and they may not be core strategies. I think Olaf rushing the early Drakes as if he's a Nunu in solo queue is something that's very easy to counterplay. But I guess the counterpoint is, do you have enough wards to ward the Drake at 4 minutes and keep your lane in check? And if the vision moves one way or the other, and a team is scouting, they'll know about when to look for gank timings or Drake timings. So now that there is this lesser vision, it's really fun to just wonder out loud. I can't have all the answers to these questions because the tape on patch 8.4 doesn't exist. But for now at least, 2 Drakes pre-11 minutes means we're going to have a lot going on in the Rift as it goes along.
Yeah, and also getting that Ocean Drake so early. You did allude to it earlier on, but it has meant that SoHwan's had a great time. You can see that green around the big Void monster is helping him out here in this lane. And it means that UmTi far more healthy in that jungle as well. And now to be able to follow it up with the Infernal Drake, utilizing the power that the Ocean gave them earlier on, it's the RNG in the favor of Jin Air, who just always seem to be able to make games go long no matter what patch we're on. We'll see whether it's going to once again stand true, because KONGDOO Monster have got to start doing something with this composition. As there's the Emperor's Divide in the mid lane. UmTi just running straight up to Edge. They'll get a lot of damage in here, uses the ult for the extra CC. But it looks like the Cataclysm won't be enough to get Grace down, and double teleports coming in here now as well. UmTi has to use the flash to get out of SoHwan a little bit later on the TP.
Edge really didn't want to flash there. He could have flash ulted away, wanted to hold onto his flash and was able to. It's so hard to actually confirm the kill on that Sion, as can't quite confirm the kill on Secret either. When it comes to these trades, they are winning trades for the side of Jin Air. UmTi pulled the blue buff too far out, and the control ward gives him pause as they're trying to return to the scene of the crime. Remember that Secret is in base.
Yeah, UmTi doing some axe practice here with a nice long-range one, as Raze is about to kill himself on the Gromp. It's not exactly great news, but he's not actually discovered. Control ward there going to hold position as Edge comes over and says, let me help you out with that one, Raze. You're struggling with tankiness. That is certainly the case. Secret makes his way back and they do lock down the buff. So last one was stolen by UmTi. Thankfully this time KONGDOO Monster are able to give that one over to the Sion to continue wreaking havoc in the mid lane. 18 CS the lead. And if you've got a lead against a ranged opponent as a melee, you're always feeling good, but I guess it's a Sion, so he feels like range when it comes to farming minions.
We've got plenty of breathing time to talk about the mid lane Sion. Why Sion in the mid lane? I think a lot of people would have asked, and I'm sure some people trying it in solo queue are picking up some pointers. You'll notice here, back to the comment. So you're in a short lane. Going for Glacial Augment in the mid lane would really only be useful in team fights because mid lane is so short that a slow isn't going to help against an Azir, for example. So it makes sense to go for that particular pick. Roach spotted that there's control ward, so he's going on to the Olaf.
Ragnarok is going to come down, takes a lot of damage as the flash comes in, but doesn't do too much. Roach is going to get pushed away, and Jin Air move in at the right time. 2-0 now as the Rift Herald should go down as well. SoHwan super tanky in the front line. KONGDOO Monsters can't get around him, and they will be able to lock down the buff and get themselves a kill.
Yeah, there was a one-way trip only available for Roach, and there was no rotation from Raze, who was finishing his buff at the same time. They needed a team move. They didn't get one. Didn't get the second kill. They pick up the Rift Herald as well, and they're controlling this early game, and unfortunately for KONGDOO, while they've shown us some new picks, the team play isn't there to actually make what is a proactive draft work. If you see the Sion mid lane, you can already assume that late game there will be a damage fall-off from the team. You're missing out on Azir. They need to make plays work, and even the use of the ultimate there, far too optimistic.
Yep, Unstoppable Onslaught is going to get shifted out of the way from Grace. He can drift as well. And Edge, unfortunately, with that short range, was not able to get it in time. Still winning in farm, though, and that Banner of Command coming in at the same time as the Abyssal Mask, as you can see.
Would the mid lane be known as the Fast and the Furious lane because both of them can drift?
Yeah, probably.
Nice.
That works. I mean, there's a few different drifters now, as Volibear's made his way back into drifting mode.
I think they're not as clear drifters as these two.
Yeah, I guess the more changing of position, just in the patch notes, they actually said the word drifting. So
That's true. That's true.
had to go back to it.
We really need to see KONGDOO focus on the two-part plays. It feels like one person has a smart idea. Put a ward into the Rift Herald, say, okay, we had vision earlier, we don't now, probably being started by the Olaf, but the rotation of a second member, the team play, actually being in position to profit over that mistake, over those potential mistakes from Jin Air is not there. UmTi's not spotted, and when you raise an Edge going for a roam bot side.
Yeah, bottom lane making their way back in, but you can see vision is okay here for Jin Air as double control wards hanging out down here. There's control wards, in fact, everywhere. As Teddy will clear off this wave. Ace in the hole coming in as we've got fights on multiple fronts. UmTi turns up and gets a lot of damage down onto Raze. You can see Grace still fighting the Sion. That's going to take a long time to get through him, so I'm glad we just spent some time bottom lane and said, meanwhile, in the mid lane.
It's our OGN Observer's
first
first go with the Sion since 2015, so give him a chance.
That's true. Well, in the mid lane anyway, he's seen a lot of it topside. Teddy avoiding Mystic shots like a beast down towards the bottom side, but straight up misses that combo.
Very clean build available for the Sion in this game. Abyssal Mask and Banner of Command is going to serve him up till about 3 items on the Caitlyn, so he's very excited about finishing those 2.
Well, there's another Emperor's Divide as Edge has to walk a long way around here. UmTi's going to turn up. SSol just doing some work. Unstoppable Onslaught. Sick drifting. Gets away from the right-hand wall, but does crash headlong into the Baron pit wall.
See how much of a commitment there is here. Azir's going to use this time to recall once they get a good shop in and not stay in lane, but that means that the Rift Herald's going to be answered pretty cleanly, so only a half-health chunk on the outer mid lane turret.
Yeah, Shelly was healthy when she went for the big bash, though, so feeling good. KONGDOO Monster able to alleviate some of that pressure, but otherwise things should be fine if you're a Jin Air fan. 2-0 as far as the kills. They're up by about 1,200 gold. And we know that Jin Air more than happy to scale this one out.
Well, let's talk about where KONGDOO is right now. You say, okay, 2 kills down. Probably going to be a second Ocean Drake down. Not looking like great reading. 1,100 gold lead as well. Do notice it's double Trinity Force and an unkillable Sion. There is actually fights they can heavily win here. You can burst someone pretty hard with Camille Ezreal, and Sion is unkillable already. The Banner of Command can be put in mid lane, and then they can look for a fight. If they have the vision at this item timing at 27,000 gold, I think they win most 5v5s just with where their items are currently at. But like you say, Jin Air's already winning, they already have the control of the map, and they have the scaling. So KONGDOO Monster have to be really careful that they don't allow their strong portions of the game, which are kind of pre-30 minutes, go to waste completely.
Yeah, and I think this is actually a perfect way to illustrate the change in patch as well, Papa. So if Jin Air do run into team fights that they're unable to find advantage in, some of it might be telling us that 8.4, one of those things where having these mid-game power spikes that KONGDOO Monster have made it to right now is going to be enough, even if you do make some falterings in the early game and your jungle just goes completely the way of the opponent.
We'll see when the banner of commands come out from Jin Air, because consider that we do not see any minion dematerializers available on either side right now. So there isn't the easy answer to a banner buff cannon minion outside of Cho'Gath's feast, or perhaps Sion roaring it away for at least a little bit of time. So this is the sort of game where the first banner cannon minion, when Baron buff is obtained, is going to do a lot of work. So the game could swing very heavily just on that.
Well, Grace, once again, having to respect the Sion, uses his Shifting Sands defensively. Banner Command still off cooldown as Unstoppable Onslaught comes in again. He gets it! Decimating Smash has to be flashed, but you can't get him out of the Cataclysm. And that is going to be the first kill for KONGDOO in the mid lane. Took 3 to do it. They're going to lose their top lane outer turret in trade.
Very unkillable, but also great gank assist coming through from the Sion in a short lane. Able to just hit the Unstoppable Onslaught from there. Too easy. The dunk, as you say, does override any disengage from the Emperor's Divide. First good moment from KONGDOO Monster. We said this is when they're strongest. They seem to have picked it up.
Yep, Banner Command was used in the mid lane there as well to continue that one pushing, but Edge is now going to walk over a ward and try and continue this aggression towards the bottom side. This is what you can now do a whole lot more on this patch, but they run out of minions. And the minion wave is a long way away. UmTi comes down. He's just going to be able to throw the axe forward, not actually find any sort of engagement that they're looking for.
Continue to back away. SoHwan did solo down the top lane turret through all of this and has a very early Sunfire Thornmail. Wow. Those are 2 items we do not see very early on a Cho'Gath. The Sunfire has been largely ignored by basically every champion outside of those that have undescribable synergy with it, like Shen. And the Thornmail just to shut down Camille forever at a very safe farm lane with the Ocean Drake. So SoHwan is already super unkillable to the team of KONGDOO Monster, whose magic damage is largely Comet procs and roars from the Sion.
I actually really love it against Roach as well, who once he has the Ravenous Hydra, he'll have a lot of wave clear, and it'll largely be open lanes of minions that the Cho'Gath can just walk into and stand there, and they'll kill himself. They'll burn to death and get Thornmailed at the same time, so I do like it for wave clear here, even though Cho'Gath not necessarily one wanting as far as wave clear is concerned in the first place.
And this is again the concern. This is again talking about the narrow timings for KONGDOO Monster. They need to get the first Baron of the game to justify indexing heavily on physical damage and just mid-game power spikes. And speaking of first Barons of the game, Jin Air going for the sneak.
Wow, they are sneaking it real fast, but there's no wards on the map. Remember, no more Tracker's Knife.
There's a red ping right now, probably from the jungler, but Roach can't go down. They have no vision on their side.
And there's so much damage from Jin Air as well, with the Feast there to secure as well as the Smite. It was pretty safe, even if KONGDOO knew what was going on, and that's a 21.5-minute Baron from Jin Air, of all teams.
I mean, the bot lane is still in the 2v2. Only a couple of shops have happened in the 2v2. No turrets down. In the bot side, 1 only in the game. Very nicely engineered by the side of Jin Air GreenWings, and just kind of under the nose of KONGDOO Monsters. This is hilarious to watch.
Azir has the worst time with counter minions. Sorry, with bannered minions. Has to get himself out of the way of the range of his Sand Soldiers before anything will actually register. But Baron is now in the hands of Jin Air. And a banner of command on the Olaf means that UmTi is going to be able to charge one up himself.
And this is your first time to name one of these overpowered banner companions, I'll say.
Banner companions.
What do you want to name this one? It could be powerful.
Oh.
It's a lot of pressure, I know.
I know.
Raze wants to smite it very terribly. Are we really not going to give it a name?
Hugo! Oh, Hugo just turned into 50 gold. It's so depressing.
You missed a chance. You could have called him Hugo Weaving. Hugo Weaving didn't long.
Of course, why I was calling him Hugo.
Course. It could have been the movie. That was a pretty good Spielberg flick.
Actually, I really loved that movie. It was adorable. We're going to have a fight, though, as Ragnarok has to be popped. Cataclysm comes down to make sure the Olaf can't move, but the Bastion is on top of him, and he's now able to get himself in amongst this fight. Secret going down very low as Raze, he's in trouble. Emperor's Divide keeps Grace safe as Edge. He's taking a lot of damage. SoHwan smacking people in the backline, and Ace in the hole flies forward. Edge just taking so much abuse. He's able to get out, but no help means the death of this turret, and the Baron is, of course, still there for another minute and a half.
And let us introduce you to Cho'Gath. He doesn't take any damage at all at this point in the game. Another Giant's Belt. He's the one to tank up. They don't even need a Bannered Companion minion.
Bannered Companion!
They don't need it. They don't need it because they got a Cho'Gath.
Exactly. Just eat whatever he wants. 5 members of Jin Air just bearing down on the mid lane, and we said that their composition favors late game, but their mid game fighting has been brilliant, largely because this Olaf is so far ahead, and they're real good at that cheeky Baron at 23 minutes.
And in one push, they take 3 turrets and the inhibitor, and this is not even with the I can't even say this word. I'll get there. Doing any work. So we get the replay of the fight. This is against Baron buff that KONGDOO Monster look to engage. They've already taken out the banner minion, so you would think that the incentive to fight is going to be much lower. They choose to fight anyway, and we were talking about the damage on the backside in the front lane. There was nothing going on there. The Cho'Gath is able to outscale everyone. Second Banner of Command
Can
minion.
I name this one?
You can.
Eric Banner.
Our Aussies are going to enjoy that one.
I hope so. Although,
it's
you know,
pronounced Banner.
Eric Banana? No. I think, you know, Chopper was pretty popular, and I'm pretty sure they've seen the first, what was it, Hulk movie with Edward Norton. Eric Banner was in that one too.
They probably regret watching that one a little bit.
He's in Troy as well. That was
And
actually
Munich.
a decent movie. Oh, that was great.
Well,
Eric Banner's been in a lot of great films. But let's have a look at this siege on the inner turret. In goes the choo-choo train as Edge avoids the dazzle really nicely, but is it going to be enough? He's still taking a lot of damage. Ultimatum comes down as well as the Cataclysm, but they work against each other, and Raze is just going to get obliterated. Teddy still safe on the backline despite the roar of the Slayer. Inner turret going to go down, and I feel like that was KONGDOO. Bit of a miscommunication there because the Cataclysm did nothing.
Feels very reminiscent of Rock's Tigers yesterday against MVP, where they have got a huge lead and are playing this Banner of Command comp. They push up. Eric's able to get 1 turret.
Yeah, but
Will
he was
go down.
being abused, you know, yelled at all the time. I guess that's what happens when he was Chopper Reed. So SoHwan just happy to tank up the turret, saving the lives of the minions as everyone's body blocking, and another inhibitor should be going down. Secret may go down as well as the Catfish has to flash. Decimating Smash not going to be enough there as UmTi just trying to get himself in there. Teddy's the one that takes down the kill. All too easily, and Jin Air making this composition look mid-game focused with what they're doing to KONGDOO Monster right now.
There's so much credit to UmTi for so heavily controlling the early game. The 4-minute Ocean worked a dream for the side of Jin Air GreenWings, and since then, they have monopolized all of the objectives. The early Baron kind of closed out the game. The KONGDOO Monster comp is a new age Banner of Command abuse comp. It never even got to abuse anything because of how good Jin Air was in the macro play. And now 2 inhibitors are down before Ezreal even has a hope in the world to actually kill the damn minions.
Yeah, and I also think that's absolutely genius coming out of Jin Air as well, with how SoHwan's been playing A, the laning phase, and B, using his item build, because Sunfire Cape, definitely early focused for that item. Just means that now when he groups with the team, he's not taking any damage from Edge or Sol whatsoever. And one of the large reasons why Sion is great in this current meta is that his mid-game damage is actually okay. You know, he's able to help out. Not against SoHwan. He straight up can't affect him at all with all this armor.
I mean, the laning phase of Sion was really good, and the gank mid lane was smart, but that was only a tertiary point to the primary and secondaries that Jin Air nailed in this first 20 minutes. They were so on point at controlling the map, and now KONGDOO Monster has so many different headaches and no answers to really any of them. Here comes another question, but an attempted engage from the side of KONGDOO.
Yeah, we got the ultimate coming down though. That's all 5 members immune to damage as Raze finds himself in completely the wrong position. Gets spat out the wrong way. So I think he was trying to assassinate Grace or something like that, or maybe they just succumbed to the power of the Jin Air GreenWings. Edge not looking as tanky as some of the Sions that we've seen recently, as that was a huge chunking. The zombie also going to be taking a lot of damage as Roach running for the hills. Sol as well, he's still alive, but not for too long. As there's a cheeky little banner minion hanging out here, smacking down Nexus turrets. Roach is going to try and challenge him. But there's just too many of them. 3 super creeps down here as well. There's Basil Faulty smacking on the Nexus now, and Jin Air GreenWings, 28 minutes, and they deal with KONGDOO Monster.
That was the clean air that we haven't seen in a long time. Super well played, well adapted to the patch, and against a team that looked like they understood some of it. The fundamentals of how to draft seemed fine from the side of KONGDOO Monster, but playing to the draft, actually working out how to play the early to mid game with a mid game comp, that was completely abandoned by the side of KONGDOO Monster. Raze once again is completely having a unfortunate performance in the jungle, taken down by the Taric in comical fashion early in the game, and then never having jungle control. If you do choose something like a Jarvan against an Olaf, this is the sort of snowball that can happen. You see the coaching staff trying to speak to Raze. It's not necessarily Raze's fault in isolation, but the out-jungling of Raze by UmTi and just a smart macro overall by Jin Air was too much for KONGDOO Monster to answer.
He was almost out-jungled by Wraith in the early game, if you remember. A little bit depressing that spotted on a ward. Not as exactly as common in the jungle as you may have assumed with Tracker's Knife in the game, but it was intelligent to get the Taric in there, get some deep vision down, and just punished for his positioning. So KONGDOO, I think after that, that was just where it all fell down. As soon as you make that one mistake, you lose out on all of your pressure in the jungle, no opportunities to get yourself back in, and UmTi, all credit goes to him of snowballing what was an advantage created elsewhere on the map. And the Olaf, despite being all damaged this time, wasn't the Trinity Force that we saw coming out of Peanut. He was still able to really dominate the mid game and put forward a composition that shouldn't necessarily have been strong then. But guys, we are going to have a short break. When we get back, it will be Jin Air GreenWings taking on KONGDOO Monster for game number 2. Can they make it a 2-0? We'll find out after this.